This episode is brought to you by the Shop 1 in 5 Pledge. We believe that when you purchase from a small online or offline business, your dollar goes further. Hey friends, Minna and I created the Shop 1 in 5 Pledge, and we're inviting you to take it with us. It's a commitment to make 1 in 5 of your purchases from a small business, online or offline. It's a way to make an impact together where and when it matters most. Because the truth is, your purchasing power matters now more than ever. Head to shop1in5.com to take the pledge. Make that commitment to shop 1 in 5 of your purchases towards a small business. We also invite you to shop the directory if you don't know where to find other small businesses. It's right there on the page. And we're asking for you to share the pledge. Imagine if each of us told 3 to 4 people about the Shop 1 in 5 pledge. It would be an incredible and life-changing for so many small businesses. Tell your friends, your family, and your social network. It costs nothing extra and makes a world of difference. Our purchases have the ability to change lives. Okay, let's jump in.
Welcome to the Product Boss Podcast, where we help product-based businesses grow their sales and improve their strategies.
Hey everyone, I want to introduce you to my co-host and biz bestie, Minna an Amazon guru that has built a multi-6-figure product-based business.
And introducing the other half of the Product Boss, Jacqueline Snyder. She has helped launch and grow over 500 fashion apparel and accessory brands, even one of her own.
And together, we share our inventory of secret weapons that will help you dig deep and do the work it takes.
Are you ready? Let's build together.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Product Boss Podcast. I'm your host, Jacqueline Snyder, with the other half of my brain co-host, Minna Kunlo-Sitep. Hey, Minna.
Hey, Jacqueline.
Okay, so this is a great conversation. We're having a lot of these conversations in the DM on Instagram and through emails. But if you want to grow your business and reach unimaginable success, we need to look at what some of the most powerful and successful minds have done. And that is the coming together of minds in a mastermind. So today we're going to discuss the law of success using the mastermind principle, what a mastermind is, and when to know if a mastermind is right for you.
If and when, right?
Mm-hmm.
If and when a mastermind is right for you, because I think that there's definitely benefits depending on what season you are in your business.
Absolutely. Okay, so let's scooch back 100 years ago, 1,000 years ago, whatever year that it is.
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go 100. So many of you may have heard of Napoleon Hill, and he wrote the book Think and Grow Rich. And in his book, back in the early 1900s, he talked about the mastermind principle. So I want to share that with you. The mastermind principle is the coordination of knowledge and effort between 2 or more people who work towards a definite purpose in the spirit of harmony. No 2 minds ever come together without thereby creating a third, invisible, intangible force, which may be likened to a third mind.
Yes. So you know how like Jacqueline and I will say that we're 2 halves of the brain, right? Where we make up one person. But in theory, according to Napoleon Hill, it's actually, we've created a third brain. So it's Jacqueline's brain plus my brain equals this third brain, which is the 2 of us masterminding together, right? We've created this other mind that's created, how did he put it? The coordination of knowledge and effort between 2 or more people who work towards a definite purpose in a spirit of harmony. No 2 minds ever come together without thereby creating a third, invisible, intangible force, which may be likened to a third mind. Is that,
Yes.
For some reason that got cut off.
Yes, you got it.
I just went off memory on that last really impactful ending there.
Nugget. So exactly what Minna said. And I think it's funny because we always say we don't share any of the same, letters in our Myers-Briggs and that, 2 halves of brains because we are definitely opposites. But probably in fact, what's happened, and this is actually how Minna and I bonded initially, right? We used to call each other biz besties before we became biz partners.
Yeah, still do, right?
Yeah, I mean, sort of. Now I just call you my life partner. So we've really upgraded. We've signed contracts. But when we met, I was in a paid mastermind. Okay. I was in a mastermind that was over $20,000 a year with a coach that I loved. she was a podcaster. She's a coach. I paid for the mastermind because I had done my business for 10 and a half years completely by myself, figuring it out all on my own. Right.
But let's pause for a second. Designer Consulting Co-op. This was before the
product
class.
class.
Yes.
Still my other business, but by myself, figuring it out, right? How many of us feel like we're just figuring things out? And when I eventually found podcasts, which so many of you have done, welcome. We're all podcast, listeners. And then I found this coach, and then she offered a mastermind. I was like, I already think you blow my mind on every episode, so I'd love to work with you. And that was probably one of the hardest parts of my business, but it was amazing because I had been alone for so long. So this is actually before meeting Minna. I'd been alone for so long, just figuring it out on my own and just crossing my fingers and hoping that whatever I was doing was going to work. And then I joined the mastermind. And I opened myself up to this community of women that gave me feedback. We all had different backgrounds and all that. And then that actually opened me up to actually meeting other people. And that's when I met Minna through the Facebook community. And then we started talking, and I had such value from her that was actually inspiring and really just sparked a life back into me. And now realizing that we were masterminding on our own together as well as the mastermind I was paying for.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I think that just gives us a good transition on what a mastermind is and kind of going into that, because a mastermind is really, as we had mentioned, the meeting of two minds, right? Mm-hmm. And so as you're all, because I'm the same way, I started listening to podcasts. I was just a sponge. I love to learn, as well as I think all entrepreneurs do. And you're just intaking, but you're only intaking from one filter at that point, right? You think how you think, you do things how you do, you approach things how you approach them, you absorb in your own way. When you have somebody that's listening to the same episode, and we even see this when we have a husband and wife combo, that we literally say the same exact words to the same session, everything's the same, and everything is different for each one of them because they intake differently, right? And so you'll see that with the meeting of minds and the mastermind is that just a different person will intake something completely different, even if it's the exact same thing in the same exact moment in life and given from the same person, right? Because you will always intake how you intake. And I think that's what's so amazing about the idea of a mastermind is that, you are creating this intangible force outside of yourself that becomes the third mind, essentially.
Mm-hmm. So Napoleon Hill actually wrote a book prior to Think and Grow Rich. It's his lesser known book, and it's called The Law of Success in 16 Lessons. And I think the first lesson is the mastermind and the mastermind principle. Okay. So just to kind of go back to him. So one of the things that he did when he looked at the law of success, right? He was like, what is this master key? What is the thing that all of these different businesses and business owners and these titans of industry. And now remember, friends, this is 100 years ago. So they're mainly men, but we're just gonna, so what is this master key that they all have that has proven for them to have success? So funny enough, I want to tell you the people who were in a mastermind together. So some of the biggest titans of our industry were in it, right? And this is back in the day during the steam engine, the locomotive, things felt like they were going fast. And so he had actually had conversations with Andrew Carnegie, which as my mother-in-law told me, it's Carnegie, but most people call him Carnegie. And he attributed his entire fortune and success to his mastermind group. And you know who was in his mastermind group with him? JP Morgan, Rockefeller, Vanderbilt. Right? It was this idea of these titans of industry had each other to rely on. We've seen that now. If you look at some super successful podcasters, they have been in groups together. I mean, and people used to think of them as think tanks, right? They could be called masterminds. It's just the meeting of minds where many people have these conversations together as they're talking about business, where you're not alone and you have somebody to bounce ideas off of as well.
Yeah. And I think, with me, when I think about, the power of a mastermind, making a decision alone is really hard, but I think it's the confidence level. With Jacqueline, I felt like there were definitely many times, and I think that I do this for her too, where you get in your own head and you start spiraling out because you're only in your own head, only you by yourself trying to make these decisions. And, it's best case scenario, worst case scenario. And you start spiraling out and you're like, oh my gosh, this is so hard being an entrepreneur. And then when you have somebody else to bounce ideas off of, to think tank with you, to kind of help you through not making decisions alone, then you get more confidence and you don't have to spiral out. Or that person's like, hold on, remember that it's going to be okay. And here's how you can just move forward from there, right? Otherwise, you're just left to your own devices in a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And going back to the idea of like the master key to success, right? That it's actually Napoleon Hill believed it was a requirement for success. Because think about it, when he wrote the book, it was the locomotive, the speed in which
like the industrial boom.
The speed in which technology was going, people couldn't keep up. Who here, those of you watching live or listening, knows everything about everything? Anybody? Nobody? Because things move so fast. How can we even keep up? So if you guys want to go 100 years to the future where we're here in 2021 and think about how fast things are changing. I mean, 2020 is proof that technology sped up, right? E-commerce, buying online sped up. The way that we're showing up, all the things that social media, like Instagram, for example, keeps dropping all these new little things that you could be using. How do we keep up with that? You can't do it on your own. Can't do it by yourself. You need other people, right? Because it might be, again, we have families to raise, spouses to pay attention to, self-care, businesses to grow. And the idea here is, well, I was sleeping and Minna discovered X. Well, she can kind of let me know about it, right? So it's a shortcut to some information. So I want you all to think about the mastermind principle. And not only is it the master key, but it's your master key to success as well.
Yeah. You're just covering more ground, right? You don't have the experiences that other people do. It's funny in life though, because Jacqueline and I lived very parallel lives. And that's what happens in the business industries, right? You have your journey. It's usually like all crazy, windy, and you end up where you end up, right? And you're just like, I don't even know how I got here. And it's similar and parallel to other people's journeys, but they still live it in a different way than you did, So you just cover more ground when you meet another person. You get to see in their business, you approach things differently. And it's just cool because people do come with their own life journey. And especially when it comes to business sense.
So let's talk about what a mastermind is and what a mastermind can do for your business. Okay. So when we're talking about this and kind of aligning with what Minna said about what it can do for you, like what it can do for you in your journey, when you're considering a mastermind, it's really important that you consider a mastermind it can be people from different categories or
different niches.
But I'm going to tell you hands down, for somebody who's been in a mastermind, and Minna and I've been in multiple masterminds, and Minna and I have run masterminds since the conception of our business. So for the past 4 years, for all of you product bosses listening, it is essential that you find fellow product entrepreneurs to be in a mastermind with.
Yeah. And I'm going to give you all an example. Okay. So when you go to the Better Business Bureau or the Chamber of Commerce or whatever it is, you're talking to somebody and they're like, oh, what do you do? And you say, oh, I have an e-commerce business that sells X. And they're like, oh yeah, that's great. But they have no idea what you're talking about because they own a car dealership. Right? There's a disconnect that happens when people are in your mastermind with you and there's like advice given that they're trying to make it fit for you. And so while I do 100% agree that yes, you definitely need somebody that speaks the product boss language, but you can absolutely, like Jacqueline said, have somebody that is in different niches as you, right? So it's like candle maker, jewelry maker, different
brick and mortar.
Brick and mortar. Even two candle makers that have different niches, right? Because there's niches in niches. So, but at the same time, you all have a physical product that you have to sell to an end consumer, right? And you're understanding like that's the transaction that happens at the end of the day.
Right. If you trust us about anything, trust us about this.
Yeah.
Not whether or not you've ever signed up for a product boss mastermind. That's why a lot of you are in our communities, right? You have each other and you see that the language that's being discussed is different. The problems, the struggles. Outcomes, It's
Yeah.
very different versus service based or car dealerships or lawyers or physical therapists, or because there's amazing business owners out there that you can bond with from the business owner perspective and mindset. But the part of your struggles or inventory, things like that, it's really specific. So if you're asking for feedback, so for example, if I sell a product and I go into a mastermind and it's a bunch of digital course creators, they're all going to tell me, well, what's your funnel? What does your funnel look like? Are you building it out on ClickFunnels? They're going to talk about that. And we'll be like, well,
is it top of funnel? Is it bottom of funnel?
And you might be like, well, what about my Shopify and my abandoned cart series? And they're going to be like, excuse me, what? So how can they actually give feedback or help you create strategy around things that they have no idea about, right? We're speaking two languages.
Yeah.
So what is a mastermind, right? A mastermind, like we said, is the meeting of minds. So it could be two people, right? Creating that third intangible mind. It could be a small group of 9, 10, 12 people, or it can be a bigger group. But the idea here is that it brings people together, like-minded people, like we're talking about, let's talk specifically to product bosses, together to bounce ideas off of, to get feedback. The idea in a mastermind is that people can help you poke holes into ideas. People can help give you feedback on strategies and ideas. People can help you brainstorm on that. They can see blind spots. So when you're thinking about, well, what would I use a mastermind for? It's that right there and then, right? You come and you're like, hey, I'm going to launch this new line. I'm going to launch a new collection. I'm thinking about doing it, 2 weeks before, and this is my strategy. What am I missing would be a question. Or what kind of feedback? Or I want to launch on Instagram in stories and feed. Can we brainstorm on some ideas of how I can do that, right? That is what a mastermind is for, to help you with as you're going through your entrepreneurial journey.
Right. And then it does definitely cover your blind spots. So it's like poking holes, like what Jacqueline said, but also giving you more ideas, right? Because a lot of times, like the backstory, sometimes you have to give backstory in the times. And it's like, oh, okay, well, what have you tried? Okay. Because they're trying to see the whole picture. And so, oh, okay, here's what I've tried. Maybe you could do it like this, right? And that's what's amazing about a mastermind, is the meeting of the minds, whether it's a bigger group, a smaller group, but even when it's two people, they see things differently. And so it's just more than one opinion, right? But at the end of the day, obviously you make your own decisions, but you get to see this other perspective that you may have completely overlooked because you are only you by yourself.
It's your board of directors. It's the idea that you never have to make a decision alone ever again, which I'll tell you is something that for 10 and a half years I did, and I couldn't even believe it. But masterminds weren't as accessible prior to that, right? So I found it when I found it, and it helped me immensely. A mastermind can also, so some of the things it can do for your business, right? A mastermind is for the business owner. And it's for developing their mind, their mindset, their confidence. It's the thing of filling up the business owner so that the business owner knows what steps to take next. We've had people say like, hey, can my employee sit on these mastermind calls? No, because it's about the business owner, the decision maker, deciding what's best for their business, right? Sometimes it might have to do with that employee, because the only real limitation for a business owner is their own mind. That is your limit.
Yeah, for sure. And because it's your mind and that is your own limit, it often takes other people to push you out of what you already think, because you're only going to think the way that you think because you think the way you think, right? But it often takes another person to be like, ooh, what about over here? Or, ooh, what about this? Right? And so really that limitation can be pulled, the ceiling can be pulled right out of that, because of somebody else giving you a different perspective.
It's also really important when you're looking at a mastermind, whether you're going to create your own mastermind, whether you're going to join a paid mastermind, is that you're all running towards the same goal. Yeah. Right. So I'll give you an example. Minna and I are not in a paid mastermind right now. We have been in the past, but right now we've been investing into coaches and experts and higher level kind of like done for us and done with us type investments. But when we were in masterminds, or if we were to join a mastermind now, one, we would want to join a mastermind with people that were running at the same speed at the same goals, right? Whether you, it's like, it could be revenue momentum. It could be people who want to build a business, right? Like, so you want to, because here's an example. We started a free mastermind with our peers. So there's a few other podcasters. There were 4 of them plus us 2. So it would have been 6. And we're like, hey, we should do $1 million mastermind is what we called it. We were all running towards the $1 million. And we were like, let's do this together because we all had the same goal. Well, 2 people, 1 person got pregnant and didn't show up because it was free. 1 person was just too busy with all her other things. She didn't show up. The 2 that were left over plus us were awesome and great, but we only had 1 call together. And the speed in which Minna and I were running at during 2020 was different than what their goals were.
Yeah.
And so our mastermind-ish idea kind of fell apart. Like, we still lean on each other for questions, but we didn't meet with our calls. We didn't do things because actually we were all running at different speeds.
Yeah.
And we really needed other people who wanted to kind of stay on the same track. So not saying that, I mean, it's a beautiful connection with them, but it didn't work the way we had hoped because 1, it was unpaid, and 2, we weren't running towards the same thing.
Yeah, I think that that's super important because they tell you that people don't, unless they have skin in the game, they will not commit to something, right? And so when Jack and I committed to this mastermind, for example, they were at a different pace. Nobody had committed anything. They weren't willing to give the time to that because it was like, oh, this is a free mastermind, right? It's just like if you are working out in a group of people and you're in a boot camp of, losing weight. If it's free, are you going to show up like you would if you paid for that program? Well, I bet you anything that if you didn't pay for that program, you would not show up because the commitment is not there. And then also when you have maybe a whole bunch of people would at the very beginning, but you'll lose people. Right? Because the commitment level is different than if everybody had paid, everybody's on the same pace, everybody has the same goals in the end, and you're working with this level of people that you're like, oh, they're right now, they're in the same season as me. They're peer-to-peer, same pace, same page, right? And so all those things come together and you're like, wow, the results are happening because of all those things. And that's why it really matters that it's paid.
Mm-hmm. So what we've seen masterminds do for people's businesses is, like we said, we've seen it break people's glass ceilings, right? I've said that the real limitation is your mind, the business owner, right? All of you have a cap to what you believe is possible. But it takes feedback. It takes another group. It takes other people believing in you and blasting through that ceiling and saying, this is possible. And let's do it together, right? Here are some things that I've tried.
Yeah.
Here's how I've managed my team. Here's how I made my first hire or my 10th hire or my 20th hire, right? Here's what I did when I had to deal with mindset about, more revenue, more sales, but also needing more people, right? We say mo money, mo problems kind of thing. But
mo money, different problems.
Mo money, different problems. What did you do when you did that again, right? So the idea of a mastermind is really truly leaning into the masterminders, the people that you're surrounding yourself with. Yeah. And that is what blasts through those ceilings, those caps that you've given yourself, and allows you to see and do more.
Yeah, I love that, because it really expands your thinking too. I think one of the things I love about a mastermind too is it doesn't just expand, but it reflects. Like a lot of times we'll get people and they're like, oh, this is what I do. This is what I sell. And they're just like, they live in their own bubble, right? They're like, oh, I think why people buy it. I think this is who my ideal customer avatar is. And then Jacqueline and I will be like, well, that's really confusing. I think this is actually what you do and why people actually buy. Because how people are like, oh, it's so hard to think about it for my own business, but I can think about it for other people's businesses. Well, guess what percentage of it that is true for everybody? 100% of people. 100% of people, you get lost in it. And it's hard for you to be able to see what your secret sauce is or what you sell or whatever, because there's too many elements in your mind is too absorbed in all the daily stuff a lot of times, right? So when somebody else is like, oh, that's kind of confusing. I think that this is what you do. And they see you from a different perspective of how you're positioning yourself or presenting yourself to the world, and they reflect it to you, then it's like, oh, that clicked for me, you know? And so a lot of times it's a reflection point that really is beneficial.
Yeah, in our one of our mastermind calls this last week, one of our masterminders came to the table with, she thought was one problem, right? She came and she asked a question.
Mm-hmm.
And then the feedback from the group, from all their fellow masterminders, was actually, in fact, you're actually just not thinking big enough, right? She was trying to deal with a problem that she thought, here's my problem. How do I deal with it? It was like a supplier and not being able to get the product she wanted, versus realizing what a leader she is in her industry and thinking about the bigger ideas that she could do. Like, oh, you're just trying to get this from the small, person. But in fact, what if you approach them in this bigger way and said, if we did this collaboration together? She came at them in this like different way. And she goes, you guys, this is her feedback in the mastermind. She's like, you guys, it's crazy. She's like, this is why I'm in this mastermind. I get all these ideas and all these thoughts, and I get so focused on this one problem that I think is a problem instead of thinking bigger. And she's like, and maybe I see it. She kind of described it as a tunnel. She's like, maybe I see that light, but you help me find my way there.
Yeah, you get tunnel visioned.
Mm-hmm. And so that's what that's what your fellow masterminders do for you. Now, another thing about a mastermind and the difference is the facilitators of the mastermind, right?
Mm-hmm.
Who's bringing this group together? Who's deciding who gets to be, or not gets to be, but who would be the most appropriate in this group? Because like we said, if you're running towards the same place, if you're at the same speed, if you have the same goals, because the other thing is, and this is for all of you to consider. So I know we're in the process right now of taking applications for the Product Boss Mastermind, but when we're making our decisions, it's about the group, because it's not right for everybody right now, at least certain groups. So sometimes if somebody's needing to make back their investment immediately, right? Like if I don't make my money back in the next 2 weeks, it's all going to go downhill. It's not the right time for, let's call it a paid mastermind, but maybe it's the right time for you to find a biz bestie or somebody to bounce ideas off of, that you guys are both kind of going towards the same goal and you're kind of dealing with the same things. You want to be with people that are kind of are in the same place and the same mindset to keep moving forward. We don't need a mastermind is important that it doesn't get pulled down, but it gets lifted up. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think more so it's a long-term investment. It's an investment. So while there are things, for instance, multi-stream machine, we teach you make your money back immediately, right? There's a window or a door of opportunity that we want you to make your money. And that's a different investment. A mastermind is different because it's a long-term investment, meaning that because it deals with other people, there needs to be a bonding time, a getting to know each other time, an investment in each other time, earning each other's trust. And the facilitators make such a huge difference because of the respect of time. So we all respect each other's time in there. I'm just going to give the example of ours, right? We time the hot seats, for example, and we make sure people feel heard, right? The difference of ours, at least in even a Q&A setting, is that Jack and I guide it in a certain way. We pluck the bottlenecks right out of that question and we get you going where it needs to go. And so it really does make a difference, because then there's no stopping point in the mastermind momentum. Keeps moving it forward. And so it really does make a difference if it's paid or not, or if, who's facilitating. Can you do all those things that Jacqueline and I do with even your own, little version of the one that you create? Yeah, absolutely. You just have to respect each other's time. You probably have to understand. We've done a lot of masterminds. We're very good at it when it comes to somebody asking a question and us being like, I don't know if that's the biggest question, or if it's the actual question that you're asking, maybe it's this instead. And so that's why we're able to, because everything's a learning curve, right? Even learning how to facilitate a mastermind. And so I think that when we have people that we're even placing people into a mastermind is really select and important. So like Jacqueline said, sometimes, for instance, we will never accept anybody into our mastermind that is going to go out of business, that wants to go out of business, right? So sometimes people will be like, oh, can I join your mastermind? Because I'm trying to decide if I should go out of business or not. So that's the one foot out the door mentality in a way, right? Which is fine, because sometimes I do fully agree that sometimes you do have to close your doors, right? And I think that sometimes there's a season and a reason for somebody to have a business. I thoroughly 100% believe that. Does that belong in a mastermind setting, specifically a mastermind setting for us? No, because they probably need to go to a strategy session, or, it's a bigger decision that can be helped in a mastermind, right?
Also,
So,
when you think about the minds, we're moving people towards that $1 million track, right?
right.
So wherever you are on that path towards $1 million, whether you're making $5,000 a month, 10,000, 20,000, 50,000, 80,000, or you're having 6-figure months, it's the idea of growing versus contracting in the masterminds that we work in. So let's talk about what a mastermind is not. So a mastermind is not a program or a do-it-yourself course. It's not a class. It is not 100% reliant on the experts or the facilitators, because a mastermind is truly about the members sharing, right? It's sharing with each other, and it's for givers, not takers.
Yeah. But doers too.
Doers.
Because you are actually the person that's making those decisions and doing the work as well, right?
It's for go-getters and for go-givers. It's not for the takers. So if a mastermind is not for someone who comes in and is like, I want it all, like give me, fill me up, but not someone who gives back. You need, in a mastermind, it's about freely giving help. Like another candle maker. I know we talk about candles a lot, but let's just say another candle maker is in.
And we say that every time we talk about candles, but it's just easy to wrap your mind around, right?
Yeah, we have a lot of candle makers. Yeah. And they're like, oh my goodness, I've hit a snag. My jars, the guy's raising the prices on the jars, or they're cracking or whatever, right? It's about people coming and saying like, I actually have this supplier I can recommend to you. We're not talking about giving everything. We're not saying that like, it's you have this like very special person.
Proprietary information. No.
You're not saying you have to give your proprietary, but it's helping each other out, right? Yeah. We've had multiple jewelry companies in the same mastermind together. And when COVID hit, there was a shortage on chain. Even though the chain was made in the US, the shortage on chain was because the metals were coming from China. So they helped each other.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm doing this. I'm trying that. Call this person. Because a lot of you are using a lot of the same suppliers anyway. So it's not a secret once you're at that level.
Yeah. And think about it, right? Is the consumer only going to be like, I'm only going to buy this jewelry. I'm only going to buy this thing. Because it's not really about the product, right? It's about the brand. People buy more than one shoe, for example, right? So really that mentality of that of helping each other, like what Jacqueline said, but it's that collaboration piece, right? Connecting and collaborating with each other is really the magic that happens in a mastermind. Now, it's hard to tell you what you can give or what you can't give or you don't want to give or whatever. But that's the overall holistic mindset of a mastermind, is that collaboration and connection piece of it.
So it's not a do-it-yourself course. Right? Even though there might be some materials, like in our mastermind, we are going to have core content that you can get through.
Right.
It's not a group coaching program in its entirety where it's reliant on the experts, right? So if Minna and I are facilitating and having a mastermind, because our mastermind is a little bit of a hybrid between that coaching style, because a lot of times you guys need direct coaching, plus the masterminding with the community, but it's not 100% reliant on us either.
No.
Right. Your success is what you put in and what you take from it. Your success is about how often you show up for your masterminders and collaborating with them or talking to them or making connections with them. For what you go through, what you bring to the table, the questions you ask that are not like, which app should I use on Shopify? But rather, I'm about to launch my next collection, and this is the amount of time that I have to do it, and this is what I want to do, and what am I missing, right? Bigger strategic ideas. Needle moving.
Yeah. And so I want to give an example of that really, because, like Jacqueline said, ours is a hybrid, right? But you can form a mastermind without myself and Jacqueline, clearly. So you can just go and form a mastermind, and those masterminders will become kind of your board of advisors, like what Jacqueline said. They help you make sound decisions. And then you go out into the real world and you do your life. You literally, you do you make your decisions, you do all the actions, you move your business forward, all those things that you are able to get the feedback that you needed from your mastermind group. Now, Jacqueline and I also have Voxer Access, which is a walkie-talkie app. And though we're in there, we don't actually coach ever in there. It's for when our masterminders are in the wild that they can get instant access to each other on a daily basis, right? They can turn to each other. It helps them bond with each other. It helps them continue with their sound decisions that they need to make, helps them with their confidence. It helps them share their wins, helps them, keep going, all the different things that, guess what? It doesn't have to do with myself and Jacqueline. It has to do with the mastermind, that what they're able to give to each other, right? They laugh in there. They're constantly chatting, all the different things. So I want you to keep in mind that ours is a hybrid, but that's really the key, is the other masterminders.
And in ours, for example, we have smaller cohorts. So people at the same sort of revenue level, at the same sort of place of goals. Because even we have people that are $250,000 to $500,000 businesses that have very, very, very small teams, right? Like maybe one other person. They're still very much the solopreneur with one other person. We have other people that are in that range that have multiple team members. So sometimes, depending, and this is why it's so, for us, so contingent on these applications, is deciding who fits well together. Where, and also the growth, like expanding your mind. So many of you are like, I don't want to grow. I'm afraid of growing. I don't want to hire a team. I don't want to manage people. There's a lot of fear stuck there. And so maybe you've hired one person to help you. Well, also the other power in being in a mastermind with people at the same revenue level, but you start seeing what they do is like, let's say you are with another person that has a smaller team. And then you start to see, oh, that's working. Okay. Oh, wow, they're taking a vacation and their business is still running without them. Or, oh, I see. You might say like, well, how do they manage your inbox, and get feedback and tips from somebody else? And like, it blows your mind, but it's a new thing to implement into your business. And so I think there's something powerful about, we always want you to, in our mastermind specifically, it's not about lifting people up, but for us, we can't have people that we have to drag up with us in our mastermind, right? Your cohort has to be in the same momentum, the same path. But then it shows you other ways. We oftentimes, when we started our mastermind a couple of years ago, one person was buying a building, and then all of a sudden 4 of them were buying buildings. This is $1 million businesses. Right now, what's happening in our, just under 6-figure mastermind is they've all started getting spaces because they've expanded outside of their homes. So they're getting warehouses or garages or pods, or somebody just opened a brick and mortar. So they're influencing each other around that. And then they're talking about square footage and how much it costs. Listen, that's happening in a Voxer small group cohort chat that Minna and I are on, but we don't have to give feedback on it, right? It's for them. And then if there's an emergency or SOS, that's when they'll ping us.
Yeah. And the reason why we do combine people in the same similar revenue level is so that it's even more peer-to-peer, right? Because you go through the same sort of struggles. When you hit a different level, it takes something different. We have a free masterclass that's coming up about the stages that we've found that every product-based business goes through, like the specific stages. And so when we're in our mastermind calls, it's funny because we'll have somebody ask a question, and then we'll answer them, and everybody will give their feedback, and they'll be like, and then the next person will want to ask a question, and they'll be like, oh, actually, that was already answered in the last question, because that just goes to show you how similar everybody's questions can be, because you're in that same stage, right? So there's all these different perspectives. So even when you're in a mastermind and you don't, even when you don't quite know what your question is, a lot of questions get answered that you did not even know you had, right? Or they get answered similar to somebody else's.
Yeah. So let's quickly talk about if a mastermind is right for you and how to join one.
Okay.
So what should they consider if they're thinking, okay, should I join a mastermind?
I think that they need to decide on where they are in their business. Can they commit to a mastermind? So like we said, you don't want to be that person that people are pulling up. You want to be the person that's helping to do that. So I think there is a level of commitment, and you really thinking about, oh, is this the investment that I want to make right now? because I can do the work. I can be a contributor. I can change my business, right? And then the cost of a business or the cost of a mastermind is a no-brainer because you already know you're going to be committing to the mastermind, and then you know that you're going to create the results that you need. Right.
And I think when you're talking about invest, it can be time. Well, it's always going to be time.
It's always time.
And then the question is it a paid mastermind?
Yeah.
So I'll give you a few ways that you all can do this right away. I know in Multi-Stream Machine, in our community in there, that a lot of you have created your own little groups, right?
Yeah.
You have created a mastermind, and some of you are having incredible experiences, and some of you might be thinking, okay, this is great. I can see the benefit of many minds. Maybe you want more structure. Maybe you want more content. Maybe you want some coaching around that, right? And that's when you would think, okay, maybe then I'll join a paid mastermind facilitated by experts, for example. As long as you have two minds, and someone mentioned their spouse, but if you're in business with your spouse, or let's say your spouse is an entrepreneur as well, and you guys bounce ideas off of each other, that's the meeting of two minds, creating that third intangible mind that Napoleon Hill talks about.
Yeah.
If you have a biz bestie and you want to run ideas by each other, because remember, masterminding is for feedback. It's for poking holes in ideas. It's for seeing blind spots. It's for brainstorming on ideas, right? So if you have someone you can rely on for that, and that they get it and they get your business, you're good to go. And you can do it. And it can be unpaid as long as you're all committing to each other and that time commitment.
Right. In our multi-stream machine group, they call themselves pods. Sometimes they create pods around, 90-day roadmap, or, hey, people in the jewelry industry, or, hey, people who live over here. Or like you said, sometimes it's a husband-wife one, just like us, life partners together. And then it goes beyond that, right? So what's the next level of mastermind?
Okay. So the next level is that you do a paid mastermind. Yeah. And you decide on if you have found a mastermind that's right for you. So again, there's digital, content creator masterminds, there's big general masterminds, there's the product boss mastermind. There's different masterminds for that. Remember, Minna and I literally kicked off our business with a mastermind first before we even had a podcast.
Yeah. Right.
We started this back in 2017 where we spoke on a panel together. And at the end, we said, and if you are interested in joining a mastermind, specifically for those of you that have physical products, we will facilitate one. And we started it with like this, it was actually an incredible group. That's probably why we kept the Product Boss going, because that group was so amazing that it just kept inspiring us. And what they did, and that they found each other, because we had people in there that were in their like 60s and 70s that had been in the industry forever, but had never had people to lean on. And we had people that were, a couple years into business, and it was just this amazing group of people that helped each other. So if you're considering a paid mastermind, I would really like, especially our product bosses, to think, are people in the product entrepreneurial space?
Yeah.
Right. And then the idea is if you pay for one, and if that is right for you right now. Now, a mastermind is not about making all your money back in the first 30 days. That's what our course offers, like ways of saying we help you make time and money back as fast as possible. It's not to say we haven't seen it though. I mean, bonkers. Yeah. Some of the testimonials, they've doubled, like in the first 90 days, doubled their revenue. And then in the next 90 days, doubled their revenue. So it's incredible things that we've seen people do. We've helped people go from a 6-figure business to a multi-7-figure business in just 2 years. So, and this is within our mastermind. So the investment, while it's a longer term commitment in time, in putting into yourself as a business owner, and financially, the investment pays for itself like over and over and over. It's crazy what we've seen. Like, we've helped make millions of dollars for other product-based business owners within our masterminds. And so if that is something that you're excited about and you want to learn more about, we are taking applications for the Product Boss Mastermind. It's actually a brand new mastermind we're offering. It's different than the ones we've done in the past.
Yeah, it's different from the ones we've done in the past, but we're so excited about them because we're really taking all of our learnings, all of our expertise, and putting it into this new mastermind in a way that we know will be super beneficial for everybody. And then it's a matter of, for me, I think a mastermind has to do with putting yourself in the right rooms, right? So Investment to me is just like investment, right? It costs a certain amount of money, but will you make that up in the difference of your actions, right? Is it going to be in different strategy that you may have never thought of? Is it going to be saving you money because you never thought of this other thing or somebody else has already done it, for example? So you're getting to learn from those experiences. So even when you don't think about like, the time investment, you're really thinking about as far as the financial benefit, of course, right? Because a lot of times people are like, well, I could have made, let's just say 100,000 on my own. I could have made that 100,000 on my own without investing in a mastermind. Sure, you probably could have, but could you make 150,000 instead? 200,000 instead? Because when you're in a mastermind, your capacity lifts up to whoever you're in the room with, right? Whoever you've placed yourself in the room with, you're going to meet whatever level they're on because you just do more. That's why my husband only works out in a group. Because if he was working out by himself in the garage, he would give up sooner. He would just be only putting in a certain percentage of effort. But he goes to Training for Warriors because those are the people that up level his fitness game, because he will not, it's hard for him to just do it in the garage, right? His capacity there, his energy, his inspiration, all of it is hard when he's in that bubble in the garage, right?
Mm-hmm.
But when he goes into a group setting, puts himself in the best of the best that are on the same trajectory, at the same pace, on the same page, have the same goals, he's like, this is what I want to be a part of. So that just gives you an example of when you think about an investment, it's not, your capacity is raised. So the sky's the limit.
Yeah, truly is. And we've seen that. I mean, we've worked with hundreds of people now within our mastermind, and it is, we're floored. We're honored and we're floored. And so this brand new mastermind that we're launching is called the Product Boss Mastermind. Super easy to remember.
Right.
It is a 12-month program, and it's committed to helping you have a breakthrough year. And we know that what we saw happen in 2020 for the businesses that we worked with, and all of the things that we can bring to the table for you, and all of the things that the masterminders will bring to the table as well. We know that 2021 into 2022 will be a game changer. Legacies will be built. It will be, you're building a business that your family will benefit from. And I want to also let you all know, as we're saying, we're going at the same speed towards the same pace, or the same speed towards the same goal. Some of you, it might take longer, right? So some of you are on this journey and you want it, you don't want to go, maybe you want to get to $1 million, but it's over the course of the next 3 to 5 years. Some of you are like, I want to do this in the next 1 to 2 years, right? That's okay. And that's the idea, because you get to choose in which pace you want to do this. And our goal for you within our mastermind is to make sure that we help keep you on track, and you've got eye on the prize, and you're going towards that target.
Always you're living the life that you want. Right.
Yes.
Always. So in, what we saw from 2020 was that people really want connection. And when you're in the mastermind, or with any mastermind, paid or unpaid, one of the intangible things that you get is connection, as far as it's just more fun. Right. It's more fun when other people are part of that journey. And because you have people who celebrate with you, for one, because you'll get burnt out way faster. And I can guarantee this, because this is literally, I got burnt out from my previous job as a corporate graphic designer, because I was in it by myself, right? And so you burn out faster when you have nobody to share your wins with and nobody to share your struggles with, right? Because you're just doing it by yourself and you forget your why all the time or whatever. And when I say fun, it's not like la-di-da rainbows all the time, but it's just life. You get to connect with other people. You get to hear what their celebrations are, their wins are, small or big, and you get to help them through their, their struggles as well. And you get the same back, right? Highs and lows of being an entrepreneur. And so that really helps in the journey, prevents you from burning out, and keeps you on course for the life that you want to live.
Yeah. So whatever you choose, paid or unpaid, I think if you're asking, is this right for me? It is. Even if you are one foot out the door, if you can find somebody else that understands that, right? Like that you have, I was one foot out the door for Designer Consulting Co-op. this is, we're talking about it differently right now, right? An unpaid, peer-based group. That can help you make your decisions on why is your one foot out the door? What do you need to do next? How could you make this match what you aspire for in your life and your business, right? Like Minna said, our goal always for you as we teach you is that you're going towards your dream life and whatever that is. And that's our goal, right? If you do you, friends. So if you're interested, we have over 100 people on the wait list. Depending on when you listen to this podcast episode, applications might be open, applications might be closed. No matter what, just head to theproductboss.com/mastermind and you'll find all of the information there. So right now you can get on the wait list, or it might be open for you to apply. And if it's sometime in the future, please make sure to get on there if you're interested, and we will let you all know when the doors open again.
Yeah, thanks everybody. One last thing before we go. We created this podcast as a reminder you are not alone. Growing a product business is hard, and we want to help you through it. So thank you so much for listening. We truly appreciate it.
And we want to give a special shout out to all of you that have left a review. Thank you. We read every single one of them, including this one from Kelly of Life Products. She says, "The real deal. Jacqueline and Minna are truly amazing women who provide so much value. They truly care about you and your business. I started with their podcast and then became more involved by tuning into their Facebook, IG Lives, and masterclasses. You will get so much from them, and when COVID happened, they really doubled down on providing as much advice and help as possible. You won't be disappointed." And that's Kelly from Life Products, and we know her because she does. She shows up on Facebook. She shows up on the IG Lives. She shows up for us, and Kelly, we're so happy that we can show up for you as well. So thank you for leaving that review.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kelly.
This episode is brought to you by the Shop 1 in 5 Pledge. We believe that when you purchase from a small online or offline business, your dollar goes further. Hey friends, Minna and I created the Shop 1 in 5 Pledge, and we're inviting you to take the pledge with us. It's a commitment to make 1 in 5 of your purchases from a small business, online or offline. It's a way to make an impact together where and when it matters most. Because the truth is, your purchasing power matters now more than ever. We're inviting you to take the pledge if you head to shop1in5.com. The link is in the show notes. And when you get there, please make sure to share the pledge with your friends, your family, and your customers. Let's invite everyone to take the Shop 1 in 5 Pledge so that we can all use our purchasing power to change lives.